Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this edition of our weekly Kundalini Awakening radio program. My name is Chrism. I'm one of the hosts, and we will go ahead and get started with this. It's taken you a long time to get to where you are with the Kundalini. And I mean anywhere that you are with the Kundalini. It's taken you a very long time. You've lived many lifetimes, and I know some people have a problem with reincarnation. If you're Christian, you might want to understand that reincarnation was a part of the biblical system before it was taken out in the Council of Nicaea in the 4th century in order to give people the illusion that they don't have the opportunity for continuous refinement towards grace, towards the acceptance of divinity within them. For the Hindu and the Buddhists, the idea of reincarnation is not a problem, and this is where current unawakened society gets most of their information about the whole reincarnational aspect. Karma is part of the reincarnation mechanism. Karma is what allows us to make the corrections that we need to make in order to be able to even hear of the word Kundalini. When you have the Kundalini, when the Kundalini is upon you, it is the result of many, many lifetimes of karmic refinement. Think about how long you have been alive today. Just think of the years as a child, well, as an infant, as a child, as a teenager, as a young adult, as an adult. Think of the many experiences that you've had within this understanding, within this equation of being alive on this world. Think about this and realize that it may have taken you 10,000 of these types of lifetimes to really have an understanding of what is occurring. What is occurring is the Kundalini now. You've gone through all the lifetimes, and actually, let me back up a little bit with regards to the Kundalini. The Kundalini, any leftover karmic issues that you may have to work with will not go away simply because you have the Kundalini. I know that some of the people in the Hindu understandings, Sanatana understandings, or Buddhist understandings, they have these ideas, these fantasies, that once you reach Kundalini, well, all of your karma is forgiven. Well, they take it in the incorrect context of that phrase. Yes, all the karma is forgiven, but you have had to do the work of the forgiving. Yes, we're checking on them. We're doing a sound check right now. So, okay, thank you. Thank you, David. Appreciate it. You have had to do the forgiving of your karma, i.e., you have had to do the actual redemption of your karmic balance, the debts that you have owed to your grace. You have had to live through and maybe currently living through. Can be happening right now. Just because you have the Kundalini doesn't mean that you don't have karmic work to do. And I want to thank everybody who has responded to the sound check, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Alana Seeker and David, other people who may be hearing us. And I want to welcome everybody who is here in the chat room, who has called in, and who is listening to us on their smartphones, or in the future, the archival people. Hello, welcome. Today we're talking about karmic redemption and the Kundalini. And we might come into a few other subjects as well. But right now, karmic redemption has been a fairly strong teaching within me for the past few days. And so I just want to talk about this a little bit. It doesn't mean that we can't talk about other things, but I'm going to lead off with this. Just because you have the Kundalini doesn't mean all your karma is forgiven yet. You still have karmic work to do. And this is a typical thing with Kundalini people. If you didn't have karma to do, to redeem and to balance, it would be very hard for you to remain here on this world doing this work. You would have really very little reason. And so with that in mind, you can kind of understand how necessary the karma is. Well, now that you're ensconced on this world, you're walking, talking, eating, sleeping, working in this world as a human being, now you can begin to really develop from your karmic education what you need in order to refine yourself into greater levels of Kundalini. And what refines yourself into greater levels of Kundalini is the karmic redemption. So, karma is such a huge subject. I mean, but when you narrow it down is what goes around comes around. So in order, what you have done in previous lives is going to come back to you in this current life. And that's for good or ill, for good or bad. What you have done, the actions that you have made upon your brothers and sisters and the environment and the other creatures of this world is what will come back to, I don't want to use the word haunt you, but to give you the opportunity to come through that level of refinement by virtue of karmic redemption. By redemption, I mean the balancing of the karma. If you're a murderer in the past life, well, then you're very, very life affirmative in this life, that type of thing. If you were a thief in a past life, then perhaps you're stolen from in this life. There are many, many different ways that karma will choose to balance itself within your life equation. And with the Kundalini, these balances can become very, very, very pronounced. Kundalini is the equivalent of the Chinese curse. May you have all your karma balanced in one lifetime. Think about that. Atlanta Seeker is asking, how much bad karma do you think not believing in karma causes in itself? Well, like the people in the West, they're not raised in order to appreciate karma. So that would suggest that they have bad karma coming. And when in fact, you're born into a society that doesn't believe in karma, that is not an intentional slur of karma. The larger issue is what happens when you do believe in karma and you just go against it anyway. That's the bigger issue. That's karma compounding karma. And you need to be very aware of that. So really, when you stick to the noble behaviors are the kind of the get out of jail card for karma. if any of you play Monopoly, the get out of jail card for karma are the noble behaviors: the forgiveness, the tolerance, the honesty, the trust, the communication, the love. These qualities, these noble qualities, really begin to help a person to work through whatever karmic burden that they're dealing with within a Kundalini context. Karma is a huge deal. Karma is a very, very big deal. And any of you that are listening to this program today and have just newly discovered the word Kundalini, it is your karma that allows you to even hear the word. Some people have it stenciled on their foreheads in dreams. Other people, see it written in the sky or have a voice whispering to them the word Kundalini, and they don't know what that means. These are karmically generated communications. And by that I mean that when it's time for you to begin to appreciate the level of karma that it took to bring you up into the space where you are right now, able to hear the word Kundalini, able to understand its ramifications. You are indeed being given an invitation through the last levels of your karmic endowment. The last levels of your karmic endowment. And I'm going to take this timely opportunity to present my co-host. She is a citizen of the world, but she's also a citizen of the Emerald Isle. And she is the reason this program exists. And I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to Amelia Santara. Welcome to the program, Amelia. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you, Chrism. Hello, everybody.
And how do you feel about this karmic subject?
It's interesting because I would have been one of the Westerners brought up with, no belief or conditioning in karma in the way that you're explaining it now. I was brought up a Christian, so it was quite different, From that point of view, you have one life and one life only. But what was interesting and how, for me, is that we were always taught as well, that what we do in this life matters, that there are consequences to what we do in this life. And we had the wonderful image of purgatory. Now, I'm only saying this because purgatory is the place that Catholics go to before they get to heaven. And this is where they're purified, this is where they pay for what they did. And so it was easy for me when I began to realize that, there was a reincarnation and that there was a teaching going way back in my, the history of my religion, where reincarnation was something. I can see now where that changed, if you know what I mean, down through history. And so for me, it makes absolute sense that purgatory, in inverted commas, is actually the reincarnation that we do now in this world. It just tying that into my own experiences and beliefs as I was growing up. And I suppose, Chrism, you don't have to believe in karma anyway, for it believes in you, doesn't it? It knows you.
That's true. That's true. I mean, we don't have to believe in the air, but we still breathe it.
Exactly,
and,
exactly.
We don't have to believe in the water, but it still gets us wet. And so karma is just, it is the motivational program behind evolution of the soul, evolution of the body is very, very secondary. Evolution of the body itself is more of a mirror image of what that person's karma has brought to them. And so it's really not about the evolution of the creature physical, but it's an evolution of the soul as the soul expresses itself through the physical being.
Mm.
And so it really is about coming into levels of refinement that allow a person entrance into grace. And entrance into grace begins to create a snowball effect of any kind of leftover active karma that a person may have to appreciate and to have redemption for within the initial aspects of the Kundalini awakening life. This means that you may, run into some fairly strong problems or very, very strong accomplishments, pleasurable accomplishments in the life of the early awakening Kundalini individual. Did you experience that, Amelia?
Yes, I would have, Chrism, but I wouldn't have framed it. Excuse me, my throat is a bit dry. I wouldn't have framed my understanding of it then, going back a bit, as being karmic. you know. It's only in recent times that I'm beginning to understand that, if that makes sense. I mean, for me now, I knew about refinement. I knew that I was going through ego refinement, and I knew also that, you know, whatever I had done that I wasn't aware of in past lives had brought me to the blessing of Kundalini awakening. Because I always felt there was nothing I had done in this life that necessarily, you know, brought me into that grace. So I always figured it must have been from other times as well, that it was an accumulation. So that blessing came through that. But I think once I began to understand about the karmic refinement, and sometimes it can be the ego refinement in that, and some of the things that happen us because of karmic refinement, it makes that makes it not easy, Chrism, but it gives it a purpose, and it allows me to accept it and almost to welcome it, because I see it and feel it as being ultimately for my good. So that even when my ego is going, I know that it has a good purpose.
Have you had any karmic developments that you could recognize as such lately?
No, Chrism.
Are you sure?
I don't know. Are you specifically speaking about something that you're aware of?
Yes.
Oh, I hate when you do this to me.
Especially on the radio.
Yes, that's what I mean. Yeah. Okay, give me a hint.
There's been some fairly good, excellent development with you with regards to the devotion and with regards to the self-corrective measures that you've been guided to take through your Kundalini. Recall any of that?
I do, but I'm feeling very private about that. Is that okay with you?
Well, okay.
Please.
But that is what I'm kind of like alluding to.
Yes.
So you can have karma come to you during your childhood, during the Kundalini awakening, childhood of an individual. Karma can come to you in very strong ways because you're in no control to contest it. I've mentioned this before. We as children face a lot of our karma by virtue of the gift of life from our parents, and that karma is typically a result of the raising of the child into into an adult, and these levels of karma can be excruciating for people, Kundalini people especially, because Kundalini people, as I mentioned before, they're wrapping up a lot of karmic loose ends, and even though the karmic experience that a person can have definitely would not be considered a loose end, like child abuse, physical, sexual child abuse, that seems to trivialize it, to call it a loose end. But within the grand scheme of the karmic redemption of an individual, it's something that must be experienced and then let go of. And so when we're engaging in karma, one of the most powerful tools a person can have is forgiveness. Forgiveness. Forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others. Forgiveness of, mostly of self, because karma is a response to the activity of an individual making certain kinds of choices on this world. Yes, Amelia?
Let me go into the blue.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Sorry. Karmic is the result of a person making very specific choices in a lifetime on this world. And not saying that, anybody that's receiving child abuse in whatever form, is a bad person. It's just that level of redemption is required for that person to step forward. And sometimes it has to happen in those ways. I know I wasn't, both my mother and father had between themselves 10 marriages. My mother had 5, my father had 5. And so, I got to get used to a lot of different stepfathers and stepmothers. And that was part of my karmic load. And it wasn't because, I got married 10 times when I was in another life. It was that having such a diversity of parental action within my early life gave me specific levels of training that would allow me to manifest a balance, an understanding of what it is, to be married, or what it is to see a larger context of what parenting is all about, what marriage is all about, what the communication standards of marriage represent, and how kids fit into that, and how myself as a child fits into that. And then myself as a child having Kundalini, awakened symptomology, inside of that whole equation, amplifying it tremendously. This is all set up by karma for the Kundalini. And all of your karma, for those of you that are listening to this and know of the word Kundalini outside of, say, Yogi Bhajan's Kundalini Yoga or things of that nature, for those of you that understand the actual ramification of Kundalini, your karma is all about your Kundalini. Your Kundalini is calling your karma to you. So Kundalini itself is the prime motivator. Karma is used by Kundalini as a way to prepare the individual for the Kundalini grace to come into and through that individual, to allow the transformation of change that Kundalini can bring into the physical body to begin that change. So for those of you like, say Amelia, that, been a Christian, for a large portion of their life, well, that was necessary. That environment was absolutely necessary. That environment was arranged for that individual to get that kind of training. And so it goes, down the whole list of possible human interaction with spirituality. So it goes with others that are also being called by the Kundalini to come into these levels of karmic redemption. It's all for the Kundalini. It's all for grace. It's all for God and Goddess. And the inculcation of the sacred male and sacred female within the single individual, the one that is two and the two that are one. Now, if you have any questions about this, please feel free to call in. The guest call-in number is 347-934-0026. United States, New York City area code 347-934-0026. And that's where the station is. That's not necessarily where I am. I'm in Santa Rosa, California. But the guest call-in number is the New York City area code 347-934-0026. Or if you're in the chat room and you have a question, feel free to ask that question. Or if you're calling in and you're listening on a telephone and you have a question, just go ahead and put the little question mark there. Hopefully with a device that will allow you to do that. And Suntar or myself might see that. Now I've got my computer decided to increase the focus, so not quite sure how to decrease the focus with it. So that means that my screen is bigger than it normally is, and it's cutting out some of the people that are listening on the phone. I see everybody else pretty clearly, but some of the people listening on the phone, like Joey and some of the other, I can't see your question mark, and so I'll ask Santara or to keep a close eye on that for you if you have a question. Karma is the driving force. Kundalini is the controlling force. Okay. Kundalini is the driver of the vehicle. Karma is the vehicle that gets you there. Okay. Karma is the vehicle, and everybody's got it. It's not just the Kundalini people. Everybody's got their karma that they're working on. This is, I've noticed in this lifetime of mine here up to this point, I've noticed how slow human evolution is. How amazingly slow it is. It's it's mind-boggling how slow it is. And yet it must be slow. It must have its own cadence and its own speed. And yet this is taking human evolution as a whole with an individual Kundalini equation. It can be extremely fast, extremely rapid, and to the point where the karma comes so fast and furious that it literally makes you feel like you're going to go insane. And I just want to say to the people that are having that occur, you're not going insane. You're just having to recognize a very strong level of karma that your Kundalini is calling to you in order to manifest a certain level of redemption that allows a certain level of evolution to occur. And that evolution brings you into a greater and stronger embrace of the divine principles that are forming within you by the Kundalini. So this is very important. Now, Tim Ashworth is asking a question that is very, very much off topic. But I did say at the beginning that it's not just about karma that we're having. And Tim is saying, Tim is saying, I have had some tension in my lower left abdomen. When I do some slow breathing, exhale twice, length of inhale, it dissipates slightly, but returns the next day. Any idea how to remove this tension blockage? Well, Tim, I would suggest you go into the blockage. And I would suggest that you begin to breathe into it. It doesn't matter whether it's the right or left aspect of the abdomen. Go into the blockage and gently breathe. You don't have to do the inhale, exhale, 2 times the length. Don't do that. Don't do that. And I think that may be a communication from your Kundalini to stop doing that. Just do natural exhales and inhales without the ego deciding that, well, okay, this was 5 seconds on the inhale, and therefore I've got to do 10 seconds on the exhale, and 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, and really hyper controlling the scenario. I would suggest that you really begin to abandon the egoic control and begin to surrender into what the Kundalini wants you to do. Let the Kundalini determine how she wants you to breathe. And I'm also getting that you need to maybe work a little more on your alternate nostril breathing as well. So that's the message I'm getting for you, Tim. Try not to control it so much. I know that I also give people instructions like in the safeties, do this, and that for this amount of time. But I myself must surrender to the control that the Kundalini has over anybody's individual process. So if Atlantis or Michelle or David or Rosemary, anybody that's listening to the program right now, have a specific issue that they bring to me, and I say, well, okay, then I want you to do this, and that, their Kundalini can step right in and go, no, don't do any of that. Just ignore that guy with the beard. And I would be good with that, because that is grace. Grace is speaking to you directly. Grace is speaking to you directly. Now, the big deal with that is making sure that it's not an entity, but I think that can be fairly easy to determine. So yeah, Tim, try to release the level of control that you're initiating upon your body. And I'll bet you, I'll give you a 25-cent bet that tomorrow you won't have the problem. Okay, you won't have the problem. And this, and so getting back to the whole karmic thing, karma is what allows you to move forward into your grace. And so as you redeem your karma, by that I mean as you balance your karma, it's okay, Tim, Tim is writing, he said, sorry I missed that last bit. It's just take the willfulness and the ego out of your breathing technique and surrender to what your Kundalini wants you to do. I'm going to suggest that you look at your alternate nostril breathing a bit more. And I'm also going to suggest that you stop timing your breaths. Let your breathing become more natural, like babies breathing. Diaphragmatic breathing. So you're not breathing so much with your chest and raising your shoulders and bringing your chest out as you inhale, but you start doing it with around the second chakra, around your umbilicus, your belly button, and start doing the belly breathing that you see a baby doing. And I think this might be very beneficial for you. Okay. So as we redeem our karma and as we begin to trust in that redemption of our karma, we can be propelled further in our evolution at a tremendous rate, compared, shall we say, to the levels of human evolution that is occurring around you in the sleeping populations. So I want you to really look at your life, and I want you to embrace the challenges that you're experiencing in your life. Now, good karma is not so much of a challenge, but I still want you to embrace that too. If you were born a very, very beautiful, good-looking person, or if you're born a very, very strong and organized and a great leader type of an individual, or if you were born, wealthy and yet you still have that level of modesty and grace and understanding, I want you to embrace the good karma too. Definitely do that. And so as you embrace the challenging karma and the good karma, you begin to come into levels of refinement, which bring to the fore the levels of evolution that a person can experience, especially within the Kundalini. Now, even as you have the good karma stacked up there waiting for you to cash in on it, you still must do good things. You still must do good things for other people. You still must do good things for the creatures of this world. The dogs, the cats, the bears, the raccoons, the rats, the mice, the lice, the single-celled creatures, the viruses, the bacteria, the fish, the whales, the dolphins, the birds, the insects. Everybody gets to be the beneficiary of your amazing Kundalini grace. This is a necessity. This is a necessity of the sacred feminine. These are her areas here. Okay. You need to honor them, and you need to really bless them in as many ways as you can. That is also part of karma. How you treat others is how you will be treated. Are you a dog fight enthusiast? Do you like to see dogs rip each other to pieces? Well, guess what's going to happen? I'll just leave that to your imagination. Are you a person that goes into an animal rescue center and walks the dogs or pets the cats or takes the time out of your busy life to give grace and joy and some level of comfort to those that are experiencing severe hardship? What do you think is going to happen to you? You see the difference in, using similar analogies, the differences there. Karma is a huge deal. Now, if you have addictions can be karmically oriented. Behavioral issues, those can be karmically oriented. If you were a sorcerer in a past life that that went out of his way or her way to use the magical skills that they were able to learn how to harness in order to hurt other people, or in order to enrich themselves, or in order to have an edge over other people, or just enjoyed inflicting sorcery on the unwitting population, that will have karmic redemption features in the ensuing lives. And one of the features that I've been exposed to with regards to that is certain levels of physical deformations, cerebral palsy, certain heavy forms of autism can come from these types of behaviors. It seems as if the more exalted the corruption of exalted skills occurs within an individual, the greater levels of very strong karmic redemption can occur. And for those of you, like Centara and Rosemary, that are practicing these types of things, you might want to give that a second thought. And I'm only kidding with regard to Centara and Rosemary. Well, maybe not with Rosemary. Rosemary is the mother superior of mother superiors. And, she has had the opportunity to lift her finger and push a star. Isn't that right, Rosemary? Is that right?
My phone was in my pocket. I was listening, and then as I say, what did you ask about? I
was talking about different flavors of popcorn. Whether it's cheddar cheese is the better kind, or garlic. What do you think?
You're talking about karma. But what were you saying about the community, about being a sister? What did you say about that?
I said that you're the mother superior of mother superiors, and you've had the opportunity to lift a finger and push a star.
Not quite. There's a smaller kingdom.
How do you know?
Oh, well, I don't. No, I don't. You're right. And I know I made a difference for people.
Yeah,
I know I did.
And that's lifting a finger and pushing a star, the star being other people.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, my dear. And thank you for putting up with my amusement. All right. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Karma is the vehicle that Kundalini uses to bring an individual closer to the Kundalini self. The redemptive factors of karma are what you will have to go through in order to embrace the Kundalini. And your karma is going to be as unique as your fingerprint, as unique as your iris, as unique as the timbre and the quality of your voice. It will not be the same. And you will not respond to it the same way that other people respond to it. And so you really need to begin to understand that it is a unique feature, and your experience with it is going to be unique. So don't try to find reference points with others facing their own karma that you hope may begin to influence yours. And I'm going to go back to Centara here. I think she's in the middle of her bag of Cheetos. How are you, Centara?
I'm fine. Cheese flavors.
Cheetos, that's the next show. Cheetos and the Kundalini.
Yeah. There's
the importance
two
of
things.
Cheetos. That's second chakra. Go ahead.
Yes. You know what you were saying there just before you brought Rosemary on? I just kind of missed that actually because I was munching on my Cheetos. But what were you saying about? Were you saying that if you're aware of all of this and if you are, is there What were you? Can you repeat that again, Chrism, if you wouldn't mind? You were saying that if you know about all of this, and if you were blessed to be, are you saying there's a further fall from grace? If you're aware, you're in big trouble, like.
Oh no!
More so.
I was talking about the sorcery that you and Rosemary were doing.
Oh no!
You got that part. Okay.
No, it was. Oh, I missed it. But it's why you brought Rosemary on as well. Just before that, I thought I heard you saying.
She's the Mother Superior of Mother Superiors, and she's had the opportunity to lift a finger and push a star. I can't believe I can remember that.
And if you, okay, and so does that mean that you can really fall further? That it can be really.
Well, you particularly, you could for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm seriously
so.
asking you that question. It's
Can you
probably my
yes.
It's my Catholic upbringing, Chrism, actually coming out.
Born in sin. That's right. Yes, you can fall further. You can definitely fall further. Grace will give you the opportunity to screw it up.
Yeah.
For sure. You get to make those. But that just increases your level of karmic redemption that you must do.
Yes, that makes sense. Okay. And can I ask you as well, the difficult question for people is when you speak about things such as child abuse as being karmic, and then you look at the different ways that karma is viewed in different places. You know, for example, some people won't give to a beggar in the street because they say, oh, that's his karma and we mustn't interfere. So can you speak a little bit about how we are placed to be present for people when they are going through their karmas? Do you know?
Well, certainly within the Kundalini equation, you're placed in an opportunity and a knowledge and an information, and really in a compulsion in many ways to follow the noble behaviors. And so you don't make that judgment. If you're going to give $1 to a homeless person or $100 or $1,000 to a homeless person, you do not judge how they use it. Mm-hmm. It is a gift. It is a gift from you to them. You are not being given, oh, well, that's their karma. You can't interfere. Well, you most certainly can. You most certainly can interfere with a person going through hurtful experiences. You can pull the car over and you could gently usher the snake off of the road. That's not interrupting the snake's karma. Okay? That is creating in a way, it's creating good karma for you, but it's also creating a kindness that this world is, constantly in fairly desperate need of. And so you can interject yourself within a person's karma and the helping to ameliorate, that karma. You most certainly can. I mean, this is how it works. This is when you open a door for another person. This is how you do when you buy somebody a gift. This is what you do, and this opens the doors to levels of positive karma that can, in actuality, redeem some of the negative karma that an individual has collected in other lives. Capiche?
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Chrism. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, once again, I'd like to put out the phone-in number if you'd like to call in with a question. It's New York City, United States area code 347-934-0026. 347-934-0026. And I welcome any questions. And I'm going to open it up to your questions at this point sometime.
Okay, Chrism, thank you very much. So I'm going over there now. And the first question I'm going to ask you comes from the group, and it was just put up there since the show started or since just before the show. It says, I started getting a rash on my face last year in January. I now get it on my neck and belly sometimes. My doctor can't find out why. I am really worried. I am not sure what to do. Anybody else? Question mark.
It's from eating Cheetos. It's a Cheeto disease. You may want to be aware of that.
That explains it.
It's the Kundalini energetic rash, and it's very common for people to have. It stays for about maybe 2-3 days, then it goes away as quickly as it came. But then it might come back in another section of the body, the abdomen or the underarms or the breasts or the back or the, behind the knee or somewhere where the Kundalini's energetics are more, shall we say, compressed or concentrated than in other parts of the body. And it can come and go. And it can stay away for years, and then it can go back. It can come back to you, stay for a couple of days, and then it goes away again. It's part of the body acclimating to specific levels of Kundalini infusion upon itself. And so it's really nothing to worry about. It's best if you don't scratch it. You'll find that it has little fluid-filled blisters, very tiny, maybe about 1 millimeter across. And if you scratch them, they'll burst, and that fluid will spread over your skin. It's best if you don't do that, just because then the scarring and things like that might occur. But these are normal events for an individual. They're normal. And sometimes they can come and they can be gone in 2 or 3 hours. So don't let that worry anybody that may be listening to this radio program. Do not let it worry you. Just stay well hydrated. Stay focused on your practice of the safeties, hopefully, if that's what you're doing. And just be patient, and it will recede. You'll see. Over.
Chrism, I'm gone back over to the group, and the lady who asked the question, I told her to listen to the show that you're speaking about this now, but she says, because I wrote back and I said, I've had these rashes too on the skin and various parts of my body, and like you said, they vanish as quickly as they arrive. But she says, how long does it take to go away for good? What is required to get rid of them? I had a spontaneous awakening, and it has been 4 years. I can't take it anymore.
Oh, yes, you can. You can take it. You can take it. Nothing is given to you by the Kundalini that you cannot tolerate. And you might want to look to why it is bothering you so much. Is it making you less pretty than you thought you deserved to be, or is it just that itchy or uncomfortable? I'm going to suggest that you don't do anything to it. Don't try to think that there's a way to permanently eradicate this from your system, because there isn't. The best thing that you can do, and the most helpful thing that you can do, is to surrender yourself completely to the Kundalini, totally, completely to the Kundalini. It's like with Tim Ashworth's question about, breathing. Well, I'm breathing in at a certain number and I'm exhaling at another certain number. The ego is trying to control the action and activity of grace. And I think that this person is also trying to use or trying to search out egoic mechanisms to initiate levels of control over grace. And I think it's a mistake. This is not something that you need to do. Be patient. Practice the safety. Don't go over the edge when you see a rash occur. Know that it's going to be come and gone. And this will go on for as long as the grace in you decides it's necessary for you to have that experience. Maybe that experience is all about you giving up your control or your issue about having a rash. Over.
Gosh, Chrism, thank you very much. That's great. Okay, I have to go back. Okay, thank you, Chrism. So the next question is, It's a little bit longer. I experienced a Kundalini awakening a little over a year ago unintentionally as I walked both my parents to the end of their earthly journey. The bliss and knowledge received was just indescribable. Now, however, I don't know what has happened. I'm in a dark place and feel as if I have brain damage. Could I be experiencing a burnout? The depression and anxiety is almost unbearable. I'm in an extremely low state, living in fear, and I'm considering getting on an antidepressant. Please, and all, any words of advice would be appreciated.
Don't do the antidepressants, number one. This is probably a minor DNS, dark night soul, and the greater the bliss, the stronger the fall from bliss. And that equation, this person needs to study that equation. The higher you go into levels of heavenly bliss, when that bliss has its terminus point, you're going to fall back to where you were before, but you're going to fall even further. And you can fall straight into a depression if you don't know what is occurring. And this person does not know what is occurring. And the last thing they need to do is to get into an antidepressant. That's the very last thing they need to do. They just need to understand that these are the extreme highs and lows that the Kundalini will begin to bring them into. Nothing is wrong. Nothing is amiss. The only thing that feels something is amiss is the ego psychology of the individual and their lack of knowledge about the energetic dynamics of the highs of the emotional bliss and the lows of emotional depression that can come with the expanded awareness before refinement and acclimation has set in. Over.
Thank you, Chrism. That's exactly what happened to me as well. You know, when I had my awakening, you know, I went boom down afterwards, so low. What I think is wonderful.
Straight into Cheetoville.
Mean. But it's wonderful that she's on the groups is what I mean, and that she's getting this information because it should make all the difference. I just so believe in information being so powerful, you know, if you listen and believe it, you know. Anyway,
absolutely.
The next question is, it's a bit long as well, Chrism, but I would like to read it all.
Okay.
I have a question which has been bothering me for a couple of months now. The right wing shoulder plate is very tight, more than very tight, painful. I think it is a blockage because anything I do doesn't ease that tight muscle. I feel like it wants to spread open wide. I have been having kriyas at the same place, and my hand is usually in a weird position, releasing the tightness. I honestly feel like something is very much stuck in there. Could it be a fear block? I have been doing a lot of work in that area. Or could it come from my personal situation with my father? It started earlier, and then I'll just go on. I have tried to do chakra recapitulation, but I fall asleep. And then she talks a little bit about it more. Massage helps a little. It's hard to breathe when it's at its worst. Has anyone experienced this? And Chrism, is there something special that I should do?
What? Cheetos. What? I'm sorry. What was...
Oh my God.
I'm sorry. I wasn't really eating Cheetos. Really, I wasn't.
Could I repeat that? Is it?
It was a bad dream. No, it's okay. That's a fifth chakra development. It's a fifth chakra development in the Asian system of enlightenment. They only have 5 chakras, and the fifth chakra would be our 7th chakra. And so, the shoulder area. If you look at the neck area, which would be the fifth chakra. If you look at the neck area and how it is in line with the shoulders and the scapulas and all of these areas of the body, a lot of detoxing can occur within these shoulder areas. And it can actually freeze up a shoulder, like a right or a left shoulder. It can freeze it up, and it can freeze it up while that issue is being worked on. But eventually it unfreezes. And you'll find this also happening within the elbows and the wrists and some of the fingers and perhaps a knee or leg. But I felt it myself mostly within the shoulders and the wrists for the most part. And I literally just had to stop using that part of the body in the same way I'd become accustomed to using it. And you have to allow the Kundalini to process its way through that blockage. The whole area may be expanding, and within that expansion point, there will be a limitation of the natural movement that the person has become accustomed to. So there's that aspect. If it's on the shoulder blades, there's the whole wing development there as well. And as the person has that wing development coming through, that's going to feel like a blockage point. It'll also feel itchy, and it'll feel like you need to flex it, but you won't be able to flex it. You'll want to have somebody dig their hand under the inside, closer to the spine area of the shoulder blade, and to really relieve some of that pressure. And that feels really good for the individual, when they're in the wing development stage. But when it comes to these fifth chakra areas, you're going to really need to look at how you communicate, not only to other people or animals or creation, but how do you communicate to yourself? How do you communicate to your Shakti? What level of communication have you attained, and are you trying to attain? And in what levels of expectations of a certain level of ease do you have? Where is your forgiveness within the fifth chakra? How have you been able to manifest what is occurring in the fourth chakra as it merges into the fifth? So there's a lot of different areas of convergence with this type of a freeze up of a shoulder or shoulder blade or an elbow, things of that nature. For the most part, I will suggest that you be patient and accept the new body alignment that's in development as it's developing. So I wasn't able to tie my shoes because my wrists were freezing up. Wasn't able to tie my shoes. So I bought shoes that didn't require it to be tied. In order to brush or comb my hair or do any of the things that I need to do, I had to change the way I did that. And, a few months later, it just unfroze. It just unfroze. And sometimes you just got to give it some time, ladies and gentlemen. Over.
Thank you, Chrism. The next question. Can somebody please share how it feels to be in samadhi? I haven't experienced it, but I want to know features of the samadhi state and how to identify it.
What's her name again?
The person, I don't know. I'd have to go over and check. Samadhi. Oh, Chrism. Oh my God. I was slow there now, wasn't I? Yeah. Okay.
I feel kind of joking today.
That's really bad.
I don't know how it feels to be in her.
No, stop. Oh.
Samadhi doesn't really have a clear. Can't really say, because samadhi is extreme bliss. It's extreme ecstasy, and when I go into ecstasy, extreme ecstasy, I am taken out of this world. I'm taken out of my mind. I'm taken out of my body. I freeze up typically. Sometimes this happens during a seminar. I'll go into ecstasy, and I'll have to have somebody remind me where I was at. what I was talking about, what was going on. There's a certain level of memory engram elimination that occurs when you go into the somatic state. And it's really indescribable. I don't have the vocabulary to describe it. I remember when I was down there with you, Centaura, and with Joey and Rosemary in Peru with the ayahuasca, 2 times I went into the severe ecstatic state. And one of those times was walking up a brilliant pathway into grace, into divinity. And that put me in such a space of extreme ecstasy that all I remember is the brilliant path and then being off of that path a while later. So for me, maybe other people like Rosemary or Joey, have a different level of control that way. But for me, there was no memory. And so because I have no memory for it, I know the experience occurred, but I do not have the ability to, how do you say, it just feels really good. Beyond, I mean, it's beyond goodness. It's beyond love. It's beyond bliss. It's beyond ecstasy. It's beyond the greatest level of earthly experience that you can imagine. It's way beyond that. And it's almost too much for the earthbound soul and body to evaluate. Over.
Thank you, Chrism. Okay, the next question is more a statement from somebody. Well, it's not. I do not understand why, for the spiritual person, the life is difficult and harder like an unspiritual person. They will be attacked more as the earthman.
Karma. When you have the spiritual person, we'll just say the Kundalini activated or awakening individual, they are being forced into a higher standard of activity, and that higher standard of activity comes at a price. And the price that every person pays in this regard is to take care of much greater levels of karma than the non-spiritual person would have to take care of. Over.
Thanks, Chrism. You made this statement, this post today or yesterday, I'm not sure. And you said, we must love our beloved more than we love our own wants, needs, and desires. Let us expand our love inward, and if both can do so, a love everlasting can be experienced. Would you speak about that, Chrism?
That pertains to 2 qualities. One quality is the Kundalini. The other quality is the person that you're with in this life. These 2 qualities merge together. So as you appreciate your husband, John, Centaura,
yes.
You would be able to see in John the Shiva, the sacred Shiva, the sacred male, and you would begin to recognize in thought and in word and in action the sacred male in your husband, and he would be able to do that into you as well. He would see the sacred Shakti representing and shining from your eyes. And he would also begin to form a level of appreciation and gratitude and love and grace through that interaction with you, and you through that interaction with him. And in these ways, we become the mirrors of divinity that are within us and outside of us at the same time. You get that?
The mirrors of divinity that are within us and outside of us at the same time. That's lovely. Yeah, I get it.
Right.
Thank you, Chrism. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it normal? Are you okay?
Just a second. Go ahead.
Is it normal for Kundalini to have you feeling as though your entire body is pulsing in and out with every breath you take?
Yes. Over.
Okay.
It is. It's normal. That's normal.
I know.
You've had that. I've had that.
Yeah. Next question. Is one allowed to ask Kundalini a question? And if so, how is it done? How do you get a response?
You're allowed to ask, but you're not necessarily allowed to have an expectation of an answer. You're allowed to ask, but the question is, what do you do to get an answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Surrender your expectation of an answer is how you can get an answer. Kundalini is many ways. It's this it goes against our ways of life, our ways of expectation, our ways of living, in order to achieve a certain response that we would call, sometimes in order to receive a yes from the Kundalini, we have to say a no to ourselves and our expectations. In order to receive a response to Kundalini in this context of this question, the person would have to deny themselves the attachment of an expectation for being responded to. This clears the channel. This clears the channel for the Kundalini to respond, because it's not going to respond to you just because your ego wants a response. It's going to make you earn that. And often the way you earn the response is to deny yourself the expectation attachment. Over.
Thank you. Does anyone have the experience where they feel as if ants, little bugs, are walking on them? I often have that. The sensation is caused by little hairs on my body standing on end. I can feel my nose hair standing on end. This is quite an odd sensation. Also, the hairs on my arms and legs will stand on end, which I can see and feel. It's not caused by static electricity. Why does this happen? Thank you.
Kundalini does this. It's like having electric ants walking all over your body. It'll stimulate each hair follicle on the body, and it'll often come up as a wave of energy flowing up the body from the base to the top of the head. This is normal. This is just a normal part of the activation awakening sequence. There's nothing to be afraid of. Nothing's wrong. This is normal Kundalini development, and the person should be very grateful to be able to have this occur. Now, and I'm over with that one. And now we have a question from Mr. David, and he says, I think I entered my process backwards, seemingly, and I'm going to put quotations around that word, seemingly without much karmic balancing. I apparently have awakened Kundalini, and then extraordinary karmic predicaments began unfolding for me to work through. Well, see, that's the seemingly part. As the Kundalini awakens, that is when the extraordinary karmic predicaments begin to unfold. Up to that point, unless you're coming in with a second or tertiary awakening experience like I did, you're going to have an easier life before the Kundalini awakens within you, karmically, and then a much harder one after the Kundalini awakens within you because of the karmic redemption, the increase in the karmic redemption that is occurring. And David continues. He said, the issue being, I did not have the knowledge of Kundalini, nor the discipline and qualities of refinement or refinery to successfully work through what was coming my way. You had everything that you needed to have, but you were guided to the information that she wanted you to be guided to. You were guided to a certain level of information that would begin to help you to discern the karma that was presenting itself to you, and then from that discernment to take the appropriate action that would allow the karma to be refined in a very specific way. So you have been guided very well, David, and I don't think you came through it backwards. I don't think you did. I think for you to have this life, you had a tremendous level of karmic balance occur in previous lives. Okay? And you say, I apparently have awakened Kundalini. Now, apparently, that shows a degree of a lack of trust in the process that's occurring. So you're not quite sure whether you have the Kundalini awakened within you. Maybe you're within an activated state rather than an awakening state. It seems that there's just, you've got a question mark about whether you're within the Kundalini at all. And then, of course, that would kind of contradict your extraordinary karmic predicament beginning to unfold by virtue of that. You don't have to have knowledge of the Kundalini for karma to come to you. You don't. Nobody does. David writes, he further writes, he says, I had a spinal sweep on mushrooms, so I feel I rushed it. Well, yeah. Maybe so, maybe not, though. Maybe you were supposed to take those mushrooms in order to initiate the Kundalini in your life at this time. But does that make you think that you don't have it? Does that, give you the reason to question whether or not it's there? Where's your trust? Where's your surrender? I would look at your confidence in this. But you don't need to have Kundalini to have karma come to you. Ask any criminal that's serving time in prison. You can have karma come to you any time of your life, whether you're within an exaltation of the spirit or not. But the fact that you took the time and you went to a place and you ate the mushrooms and you waited like 25 minutes and then you had the spinal sweep through the mushrooms, well, here you are. Welcome. And the fact that you didn't go crazy, like many people have, when they initiate an activation by virtue of psilocybin, you can feel very confident and competent that this was not an accidental intake of mushrooms. And even though you may feel you have rushed it, I don't agree. I think that's just what it took for you to come into this grace. And I am not I'm not a supporter of people taking mushrooms and trying to awaken their Kundalini with it at all, because it is so dangerous. I've seen the worst things happen to people that have done it like that. But for you, David, for you, and specifically for you, I think it was good. It worked. And he continues to write. He says, I was working on a growth and ascension process and had symptoms but didn't know about Kundalini for a long time after. Well, that's okay. That's okay. You know about it now, and you've known about it at the exact time you needed to know about it. Really. Divinity does not make mistakes in these ways. And so you're here, and you know about it, and you have the knowledge, you have the information, and you're opening to that grace within you. Have confidence in the competency of your Kundalini. And thank you for asking the question. And I'm over with that question, Centaur. If you have more?
I do. And I'm finding I don't have many more, but I might have another one or two. Yes, here we go. I felt the Kundalini surging through my body intensely on Friday. The friends that I work with started to feel ill around me, two of which were having their blood sugar and pressure checked by first responders. I talking to one of them, and she began to have seizures. And that's in inverted commas. I talked to her from across the room telepathically, assuring her that all was well. I felt personally responsible for what had happened. I visited her in the hospital for the past 2 days. Yesterday, I asked the Kundalini to flow through me to heal her while I held her hand. The room had become very warm. I'm not sure what to do in this situation. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Thank you in advance.
Well, the guy shouldn't be using ascended skill sets on the people that don't necessarily have the ability to accept it in a healthy way. I think he was just kind of on a really strong broadcasting level, broadband telepathic broadcasting level, and this caused levels of anxiety and levels of disturbance within the other people. And this is a person that was actively using Siddhic skills to serve the egocentric consciousness, even though, from the standpoint that we're reading his words, he was evidently doing so in very positive ways. But there far more goes on with the use of a Siddhic skill than people have the available knowledge to appreciate. And so my answer to him was to stop using the Siddhic skills and to allow the Kundalini to use the Siddhic skill, as the Kundalini knows the appropriate level of activity to express around people that are not used to it. Because the use of the Siddhic skill with the ego psychology is just basically an invitation for fear from the person who's receiving it, and an invitation for ego aggrandizement from the person that's sending it. And it's very important that people try to avoid those two areas at all. And so as you turn the Siddhic skill over to the Kundalini from whence it came, Kundalini can begin to teach the individual how to use it outside of the ego and how to have a greater positive effect when you're giving grace in these ways. Over.
Thank you, Chrism. This is the last question, I think.
Okay.
I catch myself doing this a lot with my left hand. I'll rub the top of my thumbnail on my index finger involuntarily, and I will get an uncomfortable twisting sensation as well as some numbness and clenching in different parts of my body. It's like the numb spot of my thumbnail is reflected elsewhere in my subtle body. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, that can actually occur. I mean, if you look at the different levels of, like if you go to a massage artist, you might see on the wall that a certain level or certain area of the foot represents the lungs or the heart or the eyes or things of that nature. If you look at a palm, you move to certain levels of the palm, and there's the eye, the heart, the intestines, the liver, these types of charts. They're not, the people that put these charts together were following very specific understandings given through mystery schools, thousands of years old. And this is in many ways how healing was actuated in the ancient world, by using these types of backups that the body has. So a position on the foot can affect the eye. A position in the hand can affect the tongue or the foot or the testicle or anything like that. And this person is rubbing the thumb and a finger together and experiencing certain levels of energetic phenomena coming, through his body. What I do is I rub the insoles of my big toe on both sides of the body. I rub those two together, and my Kundalini goes through the roof. And so that's, whenever I feel like feeling a pulse or a jolt of Kundalini that isn't in the constant state, that's what I do. I just rub those two areas together, and boom, there it goes. Maybe this will develop for that individual. I don't know, but this is not unheard of, and nothing to be afraid of either. Over.
Thank you, Chrism. That is the end of the questions, but I would have an announcement I could make, Chrism.
Okay.
Okay. The first one is to give people the website that they can go to if they would like to make a donation. Donations, large donations are of course welcome, but small donations also are very, very welcome, because these help to support the work that Chrism does in all the various ways that he does it. So you can go to two websites. You can go to www.chrism-kundalini.blogspot.com, or you can go to www.kundalinisafeties.com, and there you will see the donate button. And again, as I say, all donations are very gratefully received. And I also have an announcement that I'm making well in advance. I'm doing this really on behalf of Manisha. Manisha is the lady that lives in Germany, and you all know her, those of you who are on Facebook. She is there, Manisha Manish. And she is organizing the second Berlin seminar next September. And it's going to be happening on the 15th, 16th and 17th of September in 2017. And Manisha is welcoming people at this point to let her know of their interest and to send a small deposit towards holding their place for the seminar. It's going to be in the same venue as last year, which was in Schoenberg, which was really, really nice. And so we're very excited. I'm really looking forward to going back, and I know that many of the people who were there last year are going back, and many people who couldn't make it last year will be coming for the first time. So if you're listening to this, maybe start considering if you can come to the seminar if you're living anywhere in the world, but particularly if you're living in Europe or Ireland or the United Kingdom. It's quite cheap now to get to Germany and get to Berlin. So please do consider it and get in touch with Manisha if you would like more information. Manisha@postio.de. And she's also on Facebook, or you can find information on Kundalini seminars and events with Chrism, and that's a Facebook page. Those are my two announcements, Chrism.
Thank you, Amelia, and thank you to Manisha Manish, and that's Manisha, and then Manish is Maneesh. So to find her on Facebook, you'll need that correct spelling. And then I would like to move on over to Her Holiness. Hi, Rosemary.
Good evening, Chrism. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
You have a question?
Well, I have information.
Okay,
two things. We have our next seminar in October, and it will here in Minnesota. It will be in a town of Mankato, which is a little south of the cities, and that is what we have said before, an opportunity for people nearby and up in the cities here. But I also want to add that this weekend we are at the Natural Healing Expo in Mankato, 11th and 12th, a Saturday and Sunday, and also that we're working with Chrism when we're doing our expos, that we can connect with him and people have an opportunity to talk to you. So that's, we haven't set that yet for these 2 days. And if you're in the neighborhood and people come into Mankato for these things from all over Minnesota and the upper Midwest. So we're looking for that, Joey and Katie and myself, and we also have extended the invitation to our community members here that have been in the seminar. And we have excellent information for people. The last time we it was 120 people at least. We gave the basic information. What is Kundalini? That writing of yours, Chrism, and also we talk one-on-one with people, and we offer them blessings. And that is a joy to do. And thank you.
What kind of a seminar is it? Is it an appreciation of Cheetos seminar? What kind of seminar is it?
Seminar in October?
Yeah.
Well, it is the basics of Kundalini awakening.
Thank you.
I'm taking a lot for granted. I apologize. Thank you.
Yeah. People need to know exactly what it is they're getting into with regards to Kundalini.
I encourage people, because I am here talking to you about this because I did come to a seminar. It's already 5.5 years ago. But I had heard the word once. I read something in the Edge, an article of yours about service, Chrism, and I said, yeah, that sounds good. And I saw the ad. We were doing the film then, and I went. And I was just guided, and I followed. But I had no idea, actually, even for all my sister's training, what in the world, what gift, and still in deep gratitude for all of this. And thing that and just, Chrism, to be living in the same time as you are, that is such a gift to me when I realize that, be living, coming in this time to be your student.
Well, and for me to be living at the same time as you, I mean, I don't think any of this is accidental. So I think that, first of all, it's a great honor to be able to give this information to people, and it's a great honor to be able to work with you, Rosemary, and with Joey, and with Katie, and with the entire Minnesota Kundalini Awakening community. Really a great honor, and I'm very grateful for you, and for Joey and Katie and Davey and everybody out there in the Kundalini community in the Twin Cities. So I look forward to participating in the expo, and I look forward to seeing you in October as well. And I thank you very much for all your hard work and diligence. And I'd like to talk with Katie a little bit about that television thing that she might be still putting together. Okay?
Yes.
All right, my dear. Thank you for that announcement. So yes, in October and September, Minnesota. In October and in September, Berlin. And I would only ask Manisha not to make my room on the 8th floor of a building without elevators. I know I sound like a lazy shit, huh? Oh my God, it was like finishing the seminar, then I go, oh yeah, here are the 8 flights of stairs.
I'm just getting flashbacks.
I know. It's like, anyway, yeah. So, well, thank you, Santara, for allowing this program to be here, and thank you for collecting those questions and with the diligence and the integrity that you always do upon this program.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Can you check there? Do we have another question on the phone, Chrism?
Oh, here we go.
Yep.
And it's coming over. Yes, we are coming over to David right now. David, hi. How are you?
Hey, Chrism. Good.
What's going on?
Well, I had a weird vision just the other day that I've never seen before. I've heard you talk about something similar. My cat was playing by my window, disturbing the blinds, and I expected to see some dust fall into the beams of sunlight, and I started to see like a cobweb kind of came loose and came towards me about 10 feet away, and I realized it's not a cobweb. It looked like an energetic web, and it disappeared a few feet in front of my face. I've never seen that before.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Well,
Yeah.
I think she's being really gentle with you. How do you feel about spiders?
I've been pretty scared of spiders. I try to leave them alone. I'll take them out in a cup if I really need to, but
You're not afraid of them.
I've been afraid of them growing up.
Yeah, so I think she's responding to you in that way, and she's just very gently beginning to bring out the spider scenario for you. She did the same thing with me, only a little harsher. You know, she had a spider. She herself as a spider, a giant spider the size of a dinner plate, kind of cruised through my central visual field when I was reading a book. And you never seen a person jump so far. So I think she's starting to work on you in those levels, David. So no worries there. Embrace it. It's all okay. It's all the Shakti. And enjoy that really kind of a cool gift that she as your cat and she as a web maker brought to you.
Yeah. And I had a question regarding some astral travel in dreams that have been pretty interesting. I tend to wake up a lot from dreams or an astral travel, and I find that I'm in a paralyzed state, having trouble breathing. And I've heard this is pretty common, either as a precursor or something that happens afterwards when you wake up before your body's up. And one of the issues I had is I sensed the presence of an entity in the room that just radiated fear. I was really afraid. And I was vibrating, not the energetic vibrating I get from meditation, but vibrating like my body was attached to like the handles of a lawnmower that actually hurt. It like shook me to the bone. And I realized I was up in the air above my body. And I was spinning so fast I just couldn't control it. And that's completely different than any of the astral travels. Feel more like I'm in a dream state than I've experienced. This seemed to be much closer to the physical dimension than I'm used to.
If I were you, just on this part of it, is do you have access to Palo Santo?
Yes.
I would do that whole house with Palo Santo. Each corner, each cupboard, each crevice, everywhere in the house, do a smudging with the Palo Santo. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Okay. That is number one. And I definitely do it in the room where you're sleeping, okay? Number one.
Yeah.
And number two, the sleep paralysis is not a big deal. It is normal. It's a normal part of the whole attachment, reattachment to the body. I mean, you're never really truly unattached. You always have that energetic connection, but you can land in the body kind of strange, and it may take the astral body a little more time to get configured appropriately within the physical body, but that's normal too. That's not a big deal, and the sleep paralysis can come whether you're taking off or whether you're landing. Typically, you can get out of it if you try the roll-out technique, where you just, if you're taking off, this is the start of your astral journey, you roll out of the body rather than just trying to float up. And if you roll out of the body, it's more of a strong intentional activity. With the spinning. And the malevolent presence within, you're going to be surrounded with entities because of your Kundalini. So you're going to have the good ones, you're going to have the bad ones, but you feel the bad ones typically more than you feel the good ones, because the good ones aren't going to try to influence your equation, whereas the bad ones are, right?
Yeah.
And so this is what you're doing the smudge for. Make sure you smudge under the bed too. And
Yeah.
be good. Be copious. Be copious with the smudging. Don't just like, light it up and then like blow it, in a corner here and there and then consider it done. Turn your smoke sensors off and really give it a good smudge, the whole area.
Mm.
Do you have a mantra that you're saying to Kundalini?
Yeah.
Say that mantra as you do your smudging.
Okay. And the spinning.
Don't be
I'm
afraid.
not used to spinning.
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of the malevolent force. That's what they want. That's what they want. And a lot of times
I couldn't see them, but I knew they were there. I knew they were there. I could feel them. It was thick with fear. I could feel the negative entities there.
Just keep your serenity, my friend. You just keep your serenity.
Yeah.
You start saying the prayer to your Shakti, okay? That's what you do. Say the prayer to the Shakti, and she will take care of that.
I think the vertical spinning freaks me out the most. I'm not used to that. I usually awaken from an astral travel that I'm having in a dream.
That would be kind of strange, I admit. I think you were spinning from head to toe, right?
Yeah, it happens a lot going into the body and going out of the body when I'm coming back in. Or
you can actually stabilize
I seem to spin.
You can stabilize yourself. I've been in the position where I've been about 15 feet above the body and spinning to the left a little bit. But I wasn't spinning vertically. I was being turned as if I was on my stomach, but I was being kind of like turned to the left. You can stabilize it. You can stabilize it. Turn on your back and just gently land into the body, and you're fully appropriate. There's no sleep paralysis afterwards. Your eyes just come open, and you have full recollection of what occurred. Unless you're in Ireland, then it's different. In Ireland, it can be very, very different. You're running leprechauns and elves and fairies.
Of course, it's very different here.
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I mean, it's not really a question. It's just I'm just wondering, the vertical spinning, does that happen? Has that happened without the entity present, David?
No, it seems to happen when entities are present during sleep paralysis. I start waking up to my body, and my astral body begins spinning vertically like a bullet out of control.
So, Chrism, can the entities, interfere? Can entities influence us in how we?
They can influence for sure. What I would do if I were you, David, is I'd start enjoying it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm working on it.
I'd start enjoying it because, they're just trying to scare you. And the more you enjoy the process, the less fear there is. The less fear there is, the less interest they're going to have.
That makes sense. Yeah.
See, in this state, I don't fear it like I'm about to watch a horror movie. But when I'm watching it, I'm in it, and I don't know I'm outside of it, and there's a lot of fear inside the experience. So it doesn't
Constantly
quite
trust
translate it
your
the way I'd like it to. But
constantly trust your Shakti, David. Take that prayer with you into the astral state.
Yeah,
Did I give you that mantra, David? Did I give that to you, or did you give it to yourself?
No, you didn't. It's one I had come up with years ago, but I'd like to take another one.
You may want to look at it because, you may have unintentionally put some egocentrism into it.
Yeah.
Is it one before your awakening, David?
It was afterwards, but it was before I had knowledge that I had experienced an awakening.
Okay.
Yeah, you may be putting fear into it unintentionally.
Yeah.
And then the Kundalini, of course, would amplify that fear. And through that amplification of fear, you'd be drawing the entities to you.
Earlier in my process, when I started experiencing the paralysis and the astral travel, from there the vibrations hurt. The vibrations were so intense that I had to stop because it started to hurt my teeth.
Yeah. Yeah, the teeth.
It was one of the ways I discovered I had a few bad teeth. I needed to see a dentist for it, but yeah, it hurt my teeth.
Yeah, for sure.
I have another question. Are you deliberately choosing? This is more. Are you deliberately going out of body, or is it happening? And does that make a difference, Chrism, one way or the other? I mean, does there come a point when one doesn't deliberately, set it up to go out of body after Kundalini is awakened or not?
Well, often the Kundalini will ground the person, and they won't have as active a nightlife within the out-of-body, the intentional out-of-body activity. But, David, are you doing it intentionally at the moment, or is it just occurring?
It's just occurring spontaneously, but I'm kind of hoping it does. The more it happens, the more ground I gain. I feel in the astral. So.
That's good.
Oh, yeah.
If I were you, I would look at the mantra, and maybe we can have a conversation about that off the radio.
That'd be good.
Look at the mantra and see what it is that you may be manifesting through it. And then change it up so that you can manifest a greater level of grace interaction. And maybe, and I'm certainly not going to say this would be a guarantee, maybe curtail some of the negative entity interactions. But I also understand, and I want you to understand, David, that the negative entity interaction can be a great teaching for an individual about how to control fear.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got to have fear in order to know how to control it.
Yeah. Well, I had a dream about a demonic entity that kind of concerned me because I wasn't afraid. It was like watching a TV show. In a dream, I invited some friends to come over my house and, hey, you got to see this. You got to see this demonic entity that's in my TV. Check it out, And in my dream, invited these people over. They came in. I turned on the TV, and there's this demonic ghoul with decaying flesh-looking entity on the TV. And like a friendly pet, I was like, hey, watch it do its trick. And it opened up its mouth until it devoured itself and turned itself inside out, and they were laughing. It was very bizarre.
Yeah, that would be the entity.
And that kind of concerned me because it was like entertaining. It wasn't something I was afraid of. And I'm like, maybe I should be.
That's good. But you don't need to fear it. The more happy and easy you are with these things, the less they're going to have the ability to bother you. But neither do you want to pay it a lot of attention. Okay. You don't want to make it your pet.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
This thing would show up on TV and do these, tricks, and people would watch it, which is really bizarre.
Because that's another way they can get their hooks into you. As long as they have your attention, that's where they want to be.
So is it not true that in a dream when this is happening that we can turn that around with our mantra and not bring the friends over to the telly, as an example?
Right. Basically, what I do is I just blow up the whole picture.
Okay.
I literally just blow it up and go, okay, let's start again here. And then then you create a scenario rather than having the scenario create itself. You create the scenario. Now, unless that's coming from the Shakti, if the Shakti is initiating these scenarios for you, well then you stay happy and unafraid and unattached to whatever the demonic entity would be doing.
Yeah. It could have been
you might just go up and change the channel on the TV. But I think that what's happening is you're being given a level of experience that allows you to feel fear and, the causations of fear. And I think the teaching for you is to stay away from fear. You don't need to go into fear. Fear is the least productive thing except for the overcoming of fear.
in the case of being trapped astrally with my body paralyzed, is it better to go into aggression in that situation than go into fear?
Your body's never trapped through sleep paralysis. You're not trapped. Or it might feel that way to the consciousness, but you just need to say that prayer, really. I mean, you're being given an opportunity to really begin to enlist the aid of the Shakti Kundalini within your spiritual process, which I think is really a wonderful opportunity. You just need to remember to do it.
Yeah. It seems to happen spontaneously, maybe once a month.
And you're not in Ireland, right?
No.
All right, I'm just checking. It's different rules in Ireland. Especially if you live near the coast. But yeah, well, good, David. Thank you. Thank you for those are excellent questions.
Yeah, thanks.
You have more?
Yeah, really quick. I had another dream that I thought was an entity. I wanted to get your thoughts if it's extra dimensional, if it's ET, if it's entity. I entered into a bedroom in a dream, and there was a man changing his shirt, and his musculature looked something like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like a big bodybuilder. And I happened to notice as he was getting undressed that he had no private parts. He was androgynous, like a Ken doll. It was very bizarre. I've never seen quite anything like that. Is that like entity or ET or?
That would be entity more than ET. Yeah, but it's also kind of a positive thing too, so that you're not drawn into a prolonged focus on the private parts. When you're in the astral state, your focus can sometimes determine what is occurring. And so, if you're seeing a big bodybuilding type of person without private parts, well, then that's the Shakti saying, don't focus on those. Don't focus on those.
Because it barely looked human. It was kind of bizarre. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it would be bizarre for sure. But so would a demon eating itself. I mean, you're full of bizarre stuff, David.
Which is actually good.
Yeah. Well, then you got those specialized. You got the Spock ears going too, right?
Yeah, right. At least in the photo, yeah.
So I think you're used to the strange and wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, going back to what we mentioned about the karmic responsibilities in Kundalini and feeling like I kind of came into it by accident with the magic mushrooms.
Yeah.
Really quick, during experience pre-awakening on magic mushrooms, I had a vision of a figure in blue in an energetic net came to me and told me to stop doing what I was doing.
What were you doing?
Of course, thinking it's a hallucination, taking magic mushrooms with an ascension process in mind.
Oh, good advice. That was good advice, and that was the sacred male coming to tell you that.
Yeah, I just discarded it as a hallucination, and I kept going with it, resulting in a spinal sweep on mushrooms. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's not the way to go about it. And your ears may naturally grow into those ears because of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And listening in the archives, it reminds me of the, that it'll come to you in a stronger format if you do that.
Well, if you get a top down, that can be very, very difficult to go through. But I think that you stopped at some point, didn't you, after the spinal sweep? Or are you still taking...
No, I was forced to stop everything I was doing. Drugs, smoking, drinking, anything at that time. So.
Yeah, because of the sweep, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was like over 20 years ago at this point, but.
Right. Yeah, so good.
So, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, well,
You've got an excellent equation, and we should talk about your mantra. But you have an excellent equation, and keep up the good work, my friend. I think it's great. Don't be afraid, whatever you do.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chrism.
It would be great to have the mantra before you start the Palo Santo, before you start doing the rooms, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Smudging, I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to do that.
Cool.
All right. We'll get together and formulate that.
Yeah, thank you, Chrism. I appreciate it.
All right. And thank you, David, for calling in. And thank you, Santara, for everything that you're doing for this program. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you, everyone, for coming in and listening. And for those of you in the archives, thank you for listening as well. And we'll be back next week at the same Kundalini channel and the same Kundalini station, coming to you live from the United States and the Emerald Isle. Any last words, Santara?
No, thank you. No, Chrism, I do not. Thank you, and thank the listeners, and thank everyone. See you next week.
You always say no, and then you do that.
I just heard myself saying that. Yeah.
Anyway, I'll go ahead and stop the show the way I started it. Thank you, everybody.